Joe Satrapi, and Bonnie Worcester. I'd like to take just a second and explain how the form is going to work. Oh, is this better?
Yes.
First of all, I need you to know time is of the essence. We only have an hour and a half. And I'm going to give you the breakdown of the time. So it's very important that we allow the candidates the time that they need to answer your questions. In the beginning, each candidate's going to have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and make any kind of opening remarks that they would like to make. After that, the election committee, we've drawn up 3 questions to ask the candidates. Each candidate answers the question, and they have 2 minutes to do that. The remaining 30 minutes will be the open forum, and that's the cards that you all wrote your questions. We will read the questions, and each candidate will have a chance, again, 2 minutes to answer those questions. So, in all, it's going to be about 30 minutes for the first 5 minutes. It's going to be 30 minutes for all of them to have 2 minutes, and then 30 minutes in the end for 2 minutes. That's an hour and a half. So please be aware of how important this is, that we don't take the time away from the candidates. Okay? Thank you very much. Oh. The candidate opening remarks, I'd like to start with Michael Fitzgerald.
Good afternoon. Everybody can hear me okay?
Stand up.
Can we turn this up at all? Anyone else?
Stand up.
Oh, you want to stand up? Okay. Even better. All right. I'd like to start with just a little bit of personal information. Obviously, my name's Mike Fitzgerald. I live on Quail Ridge Road at 245 Quail Ridge Road, where my house is. I also own the adjoining lot, so I know about lot dues and house dues. I built my house. This is my 11th year, so we've been here for 11 years, part-time up until about 2 years ago. My wife Marcia lives with me, obviously. She's a garden committee person. You may have seen her around, or you may have seen her watering the flowers in the middle of the aisle out there somewhere. Just a bit about my career and what I did before I came into retirement. I've been retired now for about 2 years. I graduated from Florida Institute of Technology a long time ago. I went into with a flying degree and all my pilot's license. I went into a career as a pilot, but fairly quickly moved into the sales arena, selling airplanes, working for some large manufacturers, and spent my career in the business. However, the last 25, I was in an ownership role of aircraft dealerships and in a principal role. So I really got involved in every end of the business. I mean, I'm a businessman all the way from employees, handling them, customer support, finance, pretty much all the same things that we do around here. From a gross sales perspective, our business was bigger, but from an employee perspective, it was actually quite similar to the size that we have here at Dunwoody Ball. So I touched on all of that. One thing that I think is important that we had and we were very proud of is that 60% of our customers were repeat and referral customers, meaning I've always thought and known it's easier to keep a customer than to find another one. So it's easier to make the current folks busy, or happy I should say, and to keep them than to go out and find new ones. I served in multiple industry groups, so I've done a lot of networking around there and was very successful with that. I've got some resort topics I'd like to talk about. Beginning of last year, I joined the Finance Committee. I was also put on the Capital Steering Committee, and then later in the year, I was on the Budget Committee. So it was an interesting rookie season, to say the least, coming in at that point in time with everything that was going on in the resort. Our problems of last year, I believe, taught us a very good lesson. And the main one is we cannot run a business like this and a resort like this without strong contingency funds. Mother Nature was obviously not very good to us last year, and without a strong contingency fund this year, we would have been in big trouble. Going forward here, as you know, 26 cents of every dollar of our dues has gone into the infrastructure fund. At this point in time, it appears, as we're going through our bridges and our infrastructure and our projects, that we'll probably do well with the money that we're going to have. That being said, it's probably going to pretty much run out by the end of this year, although we have made lots of great strides. We wouldn't have been able to get through it, and I applaud our current board for some very difficult decisions that they had to make. Budgeting was not fun. We went through loads and loads of budgeting and lots of meetings. We need to continue to refine our business units. We need to understand the difference between a business unit that should be profitable and a resort amenity, such as a pool or a tennis court. We need all those things. However, we can't rely, it's my opinion, we can't rely solely on our business units to produce enough income. Dues have to be in the middle of it all. Financial stability allows you to plan. In the last several years, the lack of financial stability has caused us to react instead of act. Going forward, as you probably are aware, our board is about to roll out a 5-year plan, along with a 5-year business plan, along with the capital needs to go with it. This is the type of planning that I believe that we need, and I believe that we need going forward. I think it should be a rolling 5-year plan where the board and the POA agree with our projects, and we're looking forward all the time, both with our projects and financially, and not necessarily just stamping out fires and working on the problems that we have right now. That would mean a cohesive board, and it needs to be cohesive where we're all rowing in the same direction. That would be my plan. A couple of other items that I've come across that I wanted to mention. Last year I had the opportunity to work with our marketing department during the budgeting process, and as I asked Mark what his main goal has been for the last several years in our marketing, his answer was he was told to get heads into beds, and we all understand what that means.
Thank
That was a fast one.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Kaufman, and my husband and I have been permanent members here since the day after I retired in 2008. My platform is the ongoing revitalization of our plant assets. The process has already been started by the board. We need to continue to do that. We have to fix what's broken. The second point is reduce business unit reliance on our member dues. The third, protect and grow funds necessary to ensure our future as the resort. This is to the reserve fund, which Mike has also mentioned. The background I bring to the table, I have advanced and undergraduate degrees in business, a 30-year banking career, half of that spent as a commercial lender, dealing with large corporate organizations, middle market, and nonprofits. I was a past board member of the Cleveland chapter of the American Cancer Society and a board member of a religious affiliate out of Villa Maria, Pennsylvania. I was chairman, I still am, chairman of the Rumbling Ball Ladies Golf Invitational. I've been in that position since 2015. I'm the past secretary of the Rumbling Ball Customer Relations and Business Development until it was eliminated in 2015. I'm an active user of the golf course, the wellness center, the marina, and part-time flute player for the Bell Choir. Unfortunately, I need to address 2 rumors that are been attached to me as well as Margaret Westbrook. The one rumor is closing the golf course. I am not in favor of closing the golf course. I know Margaret is not in favor of closing the golf course. Rumors are those things that get started and they just go out of control. My role as chairman of the Rumbling Ball Ladies Golf Invitational supports my support for the golf program. We started that in 2015. In 2014, there was no invitational. In that year, we had 72 players. This last week, we had 86 women that were here playing in the Golf Invitational. And over the period of time, we've averaged over 80 players. This event brings revenue to the golf course, to food and beverage, to lodging, and to the pro shop. All of those areas benefit by these women coming in to play golf. Our committees work diligently to bring this revenue to the resort. 75% of our players are guests. So some of them, it's the first time here. Some they've been coming since 2015. The ladies love our event here because we have 2 golf courses. There are very few formats out there that offer 2 golf courses for people to come in and play. I moved here because I love golf courses. So for anyone to say, I want to get rid of a golf course, they don't know me, and that is a rumor that you should just throw right out the window. The second rumor, it's really interesting, that Mrs. Westbrook and I are puppets for our husbands. Well, that is a wow in my book. Anybody that knows me, that is a wow. I mean, our husbands are well educated, they have good careers, they have helped support this organization on committees, they've been involved in their own communities. Margaret and I also are well educated, we both have master's degrees, and we have expertise in our areas of study. My career, 30 years, business, banking, and financial. Margaret was industry and education. We bring different things to the table, which is always necessary on the board. We've both been active on resort committees. We've contributed to our communities through volunteer work, and our credentials include full careers, work experience, volunteer experience, and the transparency to stand on their own. Frankly, we were insulted by this rumor, and everyone in this room should be insulted by a rumor like that, because you have all had careers, you have all contributed to your families and to your communities. There is no place for rumors like that in this world today. Page turn. In closing, Rumbling Bald has a crown jewel. It's the people in this room, it's the people that couldn't attend. You are the crown jewel. You are what make this resort what it is. We love being here. The friendships are true blue. The support system is amazing. Let us together bring the resort to the standard we all expect and once had. A place to come and enjoy fellowship, a place where people want to move, and a place when the time comes that enables us to sell our homes and move to the next chapter of our life. My name is Ann Kaufman. I thank you, and I'm asking for your vote.
The next candidate is Jeff Kristjansen. Yeah, that's what I said, Kristjansen.
Probably the hardest last name to pronounce in the group. First of all, thanks to everybody for coming, and thanks to the election committee for putting this up. My wife, Nancy, and I bought our first house here in 2005. We've been here full-time since 2007. A lot of you know us from being around the resort. We're very active members. From a career point of view, I started with IBM and stayed 35 years there. I ended up leading sales and business development for our cloud computing unit before I retired. I've been lucky enough to be retired 2 years now, and wish I had done it about 10 years before that. For those of you who knew me 2 years ago, the 80 pounds is helping out great. I think it's also kind of funny, you've got 2 MBAs from Big Ten schools up here today. The odds of that in Western North Carolina are probably pretty slim. I think my career at IBM and my background helps us out a lot, because I've had experience leading both big and small organizations, and obviously I've had a lot of profit considerations, but more importantly, revenue growth, and always got high marks on employee morale and from our employee surveys. I've previously been on the resort board. I was on 6 years. I stepped off the board a year ago because there's term limits on the board, and I very much would like your vote to go back on the board. In the last year, I think many of you know this, but I've spent probably a couple hundred hours at least volunteering to help us choose the right new management system for our resort. The board, the finance committee, and everybody has been extraordinarily helpful in this. We will hopefully implement the system on November 1st, and we will be good to go then. This will fix a lot of the problems that we have in the resort today. When you want to know who our best customers are, a lot of times it always starts with, well, I think. We'll know from now on. It has excellent tracking data, an excellent membership database. It has the best kitchen management system in the world, and that's an example of what we need to do to continue to move the resort forward so that we can provide the best possible member and guest experience. Everybody who shows up here at any of our facilities, be it a member, be it a guest, ought to have a delightful experience. It ought to be seamless, and we ought to have every bit of knowledge and every bit of skill to be able to make their experience as good as it possibly can be. I'm a really big believer that if you take care of the small things, the big things are going to take care of themselves. Obviously, we went through a tremendous year last year, damage that, at least in my 14 years here, is unprecedented, and we had to take dramatic action, so we're very much in a reactive mode in the last 12 months, and I think the board did a great job, and Finance Committee did a great job trying to get us through just a horrific situation. But in the future, it's got to be back to the basics of running our businesses, excellent customer service, getting our business units back to profitability on an overall basis. Food and beverage is doing great. We need to help golf. We need to help all of our business units. We want our dues to be going to give us excellent facilities, an excellent community life, and we should be able to get to the position where we're not subsidizing our business units. Thank you very much for letting me speak to you. I've got a little bit of time left, but I'll just give us back the time.
Our next candidate is Scott Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Scott Martin. You may know my better half, as we call her, Lynette. Lynette is originally from Rutherford County. We have actually owned a home in Rumbling Bald since 2001, so we've been around here a pretty long time. We raised 4 sons here in the area, and Rumbling Bald was the place where they grew up. All the summers, all the special events as family. They're getting a little bit older now. Our oldest son is getting married this September, and our youngest son is going to be graduating from high school from Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy just down the road, so we are this close to being empty nesters. I'm really excited about it. I actually grew up in the Chicago area, moved around Boston, Atlanta, but went to the University of North Carolina as an undergrad, business major in finance. Got into the consulting world, did that for about 3 or 4 years, ended up going back and getting my MBA from Northwestern, and really spent most of my career in industry. There was a company called Rheem Manufacturing, a company you may not have heard of, but they make lots of water heaters, air conditioning systems, what we call home comfort products. We had a lot of fun, a great management team at Rheem. Eventually I was president of one of the divisions for Rheem, later promoted to be chief operating officer of the company and eventually CEO of the company in New York. It was about a $2 billion organization, around 20,000 employees. So I've seen a lot of different sides of business from that standpoint. But in 2006, we left New York, decided that's not where we wanted to be. We came back to our home here in Rumbling Bald. And once again, my wife's family's in the area, and the more we were around all the family, we realized this is where we wanted to raise our kids and wanted to spend our time. So during this transition time, I became very active in Rutherford County. I was the chairman of the board for Kid Census. I worked on the committee that brought the Forest City Owls, the baseball team, to Forest City. Involved in Thomas Jefferson with their booster club, raising funds for facilities. So formed a lot of relationships with people who are now in the county commissioner, also getting into the town ranks. So I think those are very important constituents that we want to make sure we're talking to them and making sure that we're helping them to be successful, and they're also understanding our needs as a community. I'm now an operating partner for a private equity firm. I support the acquisition of companies here in the area. Our most recent acquisition is in Greer, South Carolina, a company that makes components for BMW. I'm executive chairman of that organization. It's not a full-time commitment, and as we've been living here and as the kids are starting to move into this next stage, we just thought it was a great time for me to get more engaged within this community because it means so much to us. Over the last several years, to be quite frank, last 4 or 5 years, just looking around, driving around, we've just noticed that we're seeing some wear and tear, right, on the facilities, on our roads, all the things, notwithstanding the issues with the bridges, but clearly there was a feeling we weren't really reinvesting back in our infrastructure. And I think our guests are noticing it, I think the property owners are noticing it, and what's more concerning for me, people outside the resort, people that we want to bring here, or people that we want to move here and buy real estate, they're seeing those type of things. So it kind of got me thinking and got me interested, and then that CSI report, that study that I commend the board for doing, really kind of opened my eyes to some of the issues that we're facing as an organization. So I think from a platform standpoint, there's really 3 key areas that I would support. First and foremost is a refocus on the POA and our membership. I think in terms of our investments, in terms of listening to the needs, it all starts with the POA. That is the foundation of everything we do there. The resort is great, right? We have lots of friends and family take a measure, but I think we really need to look and make sure we're investing in that infrastructure from a POA standpoint. Secondly, I would like to see us continue to promote more home and lot ownership. The more people that we want to have live here, we have now Lake Shore Charter. We didn't have that 10 years ago. That school is doing great. There's an opportunity to bring younger families in here, right? We know several families that live here that have kids. We need to do more of that and look at this as not just being a place for people to come visit, but a place for people to raise a family. The second area is we need to establish a very strong financial position for the resort. We can't get a reputation for not doing the simple things, taking care of our business from that standpoint. In addition to that, we've got to fund reserves. We've got to have a rainy day fund so that if something happens, it gives us flexibility. That's just a necessary thing to do. We've got to take care of that moving forward. I'm an optimist. I think we can overcome any of these challenges with the right board leadership, working with the team here. I'm very optimistic we can do some great things for the organization. So I certainly appreciate your vote, and thank you very much for your time.
Westbrook.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to dialogue with the POA on questions that are just forefront in your minds about Rambling Golf Resort. It is so important that all members become informed and understand the issues surrounding the operations and maintenance of our community. Each of us, as I've tried to do for the last few years, can familiarize ourselves at least with the high-level financials, ask questions, attend meetings, and help hold ourselves accountable to ourselves, the POA. At this pivotal time in the resort's financial and physical stability, it's critical that we continue to look forward to the restoration of the resort infrastructure and reserves so that we may weather any future events that come our way, whether they're economic, market, or weather-related, as we've seen this past year. Again, my name is Margaret Westbrook. My husband and I have been homeowners here since May 2013. We are permanent residents as of August 2014, and we also own unimproved lots, so we understand the issues surrounding dues. I have an educational background in science and engineering, which has kind of honed my critical thinking skills. I feel like I'm sort of the every person candidate because I've tried to educate myself on the financial piece of the organization, the operational piece of it, and I think that we can improve that. I have held various leadership positions in industry, academia, and the community. For Rambling Golf Resort, I've been on the Business Development and Customer Service Committee. I've been 2 terms on the Board Election Committee. Currently, I'm completing 10 months of a vacated board position. So the major issues that I see we need to continue to work on is that large infrastructure repair. We need to work on updating our reserve study and implementing a plan to build reserves and to take care of our infrastructure here. Our operating costs have been growing at a faster rate since 2001 than our operating revenue has been coming up. So we need to work on the operating costs here and how we balance that and the revenue as well. Our owner equity has declined in the last few years. In 2014, it was about $5.1 million. At the end of 2018, it was $4 million. You're going to see it increasing this year because we have the dues increase to help us get back on our feet and to take care of some of the damage that we had. The prosperity of Rambling Golf Resort is vital to our community for our property values and for our quality of life, to our employees for their livelihood, to the town of Lake Lure for tax base and for attracting tourists to the area, and again to Rutherford County for tax base and employment opportunities. Like the flight attendant telling you to put on your own oxygen mask first or you will be no value to help others Analogously, we need to get the Rumbling Ball Resort fiscally and financially healthy so that all of the stakeholders benefit. As CSI confirmed in their study of Rumbling Ball, we need to rebalance our emphasis on the guest experience toward the member experience in order to attract more dues-paying members. By attracting those dues-paying members, we will stabilize our dues and property values. We need to identify and target market to demographics that are likely members, so that our guest experience will focus on conversion from guest to member in the future. I look forward to discussing these ideas and any others on your mind this afternoon.
The next part is going to be election committee members' questions. We have 3 questions, and they have 2 minutes to answer each question. Jean Ann is going to be first. The first question is, the current board has developed both a 5- and 10-year long-range plan. Do you, and how would you, help the board maintain this direction in support of these plans?
The first thing to remember is any plan has to be tweaked every year, because as things change, whatever happens, you have to relook at that plan. So once you set it down, it's not going to last for 5 solid years. So you need to have the flexibility in order to adjust that plan when adjustments happen. And I think that board, as long, the board, we have advisors on the accounting side, there's CSI, we have people in the audience who have expertise in different areas. You all can contribute to make sure that we have a 5-year plan that actually suits this organization.
Thank you. Next is going to be Jeff.
Yeah, obviously, a long-term 5-year plan, 10-year plan, very important to the future of the resort. As others have mentioned, it's probably best to have a rolling 5-year plan where we relook at it every year and update it as we see what's working, what's not working, changes in the environment, changes in technology. Obviously today, part of any 5-year plan, we all know our technology in the area is challenging at best. Maybe 2 or 3 years from now, we'll have made some progress on that, and we'll modify the plan to go attack whatever the biggest issue there is. The biggest challenge to that is not only the board, but involvement of our committee. Right now, the resort is very strong committee, involvement of membership to make sure that as the plan evolves, as the plan gets updated every year, and as the plan is there, it reflects what the current needs of the community are. Boards change, our membership changes, committees change, but if you set the direction of the resort, it will help us be more consistent, help us get better to our road towards profitability, get, more importantly, better member service, excellence of experience. Scott?
Thank you. Scott Martin is next.
Perfect, thank you. I think, kind of fundamental to any long-range plan, it's great to have that vision. We want to make sure that we're constantly re-looking at that and making sure that everyone's part of that. But at the end of the day, you got to break it down into manageable, what are the specific initiatives that are going to help us achieve that vision, right? What are those things that are mission critical, whether it be on the resort side, the POA side, and who's accountable for that? Who are the individuals that are going to track that progress? And then you have to measure it, right? If you don't measure it, you don't know if you're getting there. How many new homeowners are we looking for? How many new property owners are we looking for? What size of reserve do we need in 5 years? Those are all things that the board needs to work together to break down, make it manageable, and then track it and hold everyone accountable for it.
Thank you, Scott. Margaret Westbrook is next.
Well, I've been involved on the beginnings of this 5-year plan, and I think it's really critical that we all have a vision that is that North Star, that we can all be rowing the boat in the same direction, that the POA, that it's socialized with the POA, they understand it, they believe in it, our team, our management team believes in it, our employees believe in it. So I think that's a critical piece, is that we have a vision that we all can get behind. So I think I could help with that as well. I think we need to look at, as CSI recommended, making sure that we are doing operations, we're doing amenities, that these are things that will bring in potential new members. We need to focus on that. We want to convert from guests to new members, either buying our homes that people have aged out of and need to move on, or need to move on for business reasons. We need to be focusing on things like the internet, cell service, those kind of things that will bring people that can work remotely here as well. So I think we all need to get on kind of on that vision and to socialize it with the POA and make sure that we all understand and move in the same direction.
Thank you, Margaret.
I too am fully in favor of a 5-year plan, but I would actually add another word to it. I would say I'm in favor of a 5-year flexible plan. I think some of the mistakes we've made in recent years are because we really didn't have a plan. I could see that we were putting out fires, if you will, without being able to move forward. Obviously, that plan needs to go forward with good funding. However, we need enough funding set aside along with the plan to put up with some of the changes that we've had to recently. Now, hopefully, Mother Nature doesn't come back and visit us like it did recently. But there's always a chance that that's going to happen. I know that there'll be things in the plan that we will try. If they're not successful, we do need to move on. But I think we need a base plan going forward that is flexible enough to know when things are working and when things are not working. And with the whole board in unity in the POA, be able to move forward.
Thank you, Michael. The next question, question number 2 from the election committee. Each candidate gets 2 minutes. Given the current state of POA finances, what would you recommend to ensure we do not find ourselves in this situation in the future? Jeff.
The easy answer is no disaster. But no, seriously, it's a combination of everything that the entire table has talked about. You have to have a plan so you know your direction, so you know your goals, you know where you need to end up. You have to have a reserve study so we understand what it's going to take to get the resort to the condition where we're all going to be extraordinarily proud. We live in a great place. We live in a place with wonderful people. So we need to make sure that we keep our amenities up to snuff, our golf courses, our business units, so we give them the funding that they need. We need to make sure that each year we tactically monitor our progress on each of those areas. As Scott said, if you don't inspect it, it's not going to happen. And we've got to make sure that once we set our goals, how much reserves do we need, when does each item need to be repaired, replaced, that we don't get into positions where our boats are all getting a little bit too old, or the equipment in the wellness center probably should have been replaced a year ago, so that we have a plan and we have the proper funding put in place so that we're able to achieve that plan, and then measure, did we get there? And at the same time, make sure we're measuring our business units so that they're performing as well as we can. Everybody knows golf is a tough business across the country right now. That doesn't mean we should close a golf course. It means we should make sure that we make it as close to profitable as it's possible. And if we look at each individual decision that we make, that's the way that you make sure you stay fundamentally financially solvent with the right reserves, so that as we move forward, if a disaster happens like last year, we'll probably have to do something extraordinary again. But at least we'll be funded for everything that's predictable.
Thank you. Next is Scott Martin.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, and you'll hear some common response here, I think it all starts with the reserves, right? The reserves become our safety net for changes in the economy. You know, we've had a pretty good run here the last 5 years, right? At some point, there's going to be a turn, and or we've seen what happens with natural events. that reserve, funding that adequately will give us some cushion so that there's no unanticipated dues increases, right? That kind of gets all of our attention from that standpoint. So I think in the next 5 years, that is a critical piece of this, is making sure we adequately fund those reserves. I think we need to work with the management team here to look at all aspects of our business units. Are there creative ways of increasing our revenue? Are there ways that we can manage our costs better? We need to be a service to those individuals. Everyone's working real hard here. I mean, all the wonderful experiences we've had with the staff here, these are people that are working really hard. I want the board to be a partner with them to help them find solutions, bring in unique ideas, and hopefully we can drive some of that. But long term, I think if we increase the number of property owners here, that is our stable revenue, because whether the economy is going up or going down, if everyone is paying their dues, right, that's a stable force for growth in the organization. The issue being, if we rely too much on rental activity and rental income, that can go away very quickly, right, depending on the whims of the economy. So I think in the long term, we really need to measure ourselves and find out, are we attracting people who see the wonderful things that we see, what is so special about this place. I think there's some real opportunity there if we get our financial house in order, and I'm very optimistic about the outlook. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to echo, all 5 of us agree that reserves are critical. We've gotten ourselves to a place where we weren't able to weather that last year without a larger dues increase this year. So I think it's important that we, again, do that reserve study, that we get a plan to fund that, and to also find a capital plan to refurbish, replace, refresh our resort so that it's this beautiful and joyful place to live as we have known it before. I think planning is critical. I think the 5-year plan will help us to see exactly what we need to do to get the physical house in order. The financial piece of it will show us what we're going to have to do, revenue, cost-wise, and dues-wise. And we'll be able to plan ahead, and we'll be able to anticipate what each of our contribution to that will need to be.
Thank you, Margaret.
I think the answer is going to come to us this year, and what I mean by that is if the board has done their job, which I really truly believe they have, with the 5-year plan and attaching the proper numbers to it, and we go through a budgeting round like we did last year, where we make all our business units work as best we can. There's an answer in between those 2 numbers with a reserve on the end of it. And once again, we all keep talking about it, but I can tell you from a financial perspective, coming into this year with the reserve that we have, and we currently have over $900,000 sitting in the infrastructure reserve fund with bridges being built and so forth, it's much more comforting than it was last year at this time. So if we've done our job, and if the board continues to do our job, the answer will come to us in the 5-year plan, the budgeting process, and how much reserve we feel comfortable with. But I will tell you that going forward, as a member, I like to see the reserve be adequate, which it hasn't been in the last few years.
Thank you.
We've all mentioned the reserve fund, and I just want to put it in perspective for all of you sitting in here. When you were starting out in your careers, you set up money for college funds, you set up money for retirement, you set up money for a safety net on your homes if you needed a new roof or gutters. This is the same thing. We need to have a reserve that's a good number that can support those crises that happen. As a second point, I think we need to monitor our business units. What's working, what's not working. That goes on all the time. What's working 1 week, 1 month later may not be working. So that's a constant evolution, much like a 5-year plan. The other critical piece, and we say it every time, is communication. We have to let everyone know what is going on. Stop the rumors. This is what's happening here. Communication, transparency. And the third piece is we need new members. I know we got a lot of blue hairs in here, but we'd like to get some young new members that come here and live. We've got the school system. There's other ancillary things going on. So if we can increase membership, monitor how we're running the business, and have those reserve funds, I think that can help us move forward.
Thank you. question committees before. Again, everyone has 2 minutes. Do you have any ideas on how to generate more revenue for the resort? And what do you